The rain had soaked through Karina's jacket by the time she stumbled into the marble lobby, her portfolio clutched against her chest like a shield. And she had exactly 3 minutes to make it to the most important interview of her life. Water dripped from her dark hair onto the pristine floor as she rushed toward the elevators, her worn sneakers squeaking against the polished surface. The building towered above the city, all glass and steel and money, so different from the cramped apartment in Queens she shared with her grandmother. Karina pressed the button for the 42nd floor, watching the numbers climb as she tried to catch her breath and compose herself. She was here to interview for a position as a cultural liaison at Thompson Global Trading, a massive import-export company that needed someone who understood both American business practices and the nuances of Middle Eastern markets. It was perfect for her, someone who had grown up straddling two worlds, speaking Arabic at home with her Palestinian grandmother while navigating American schools and universities. Her degree in international business had been hard-won, paid for with scholarships and late-night shifts at a diner. The elevator doors opened to reveal a reception area that screamed wealth. A woman with perfectly coiffed blonde hair looked up from her desk, her smile polite but distant. "Can I help you, Karina Dawson? I have an interview with Mr. Harrison at 10. The receptionist's expression shifted slightly, becoming more welcoming. "Of course. You're right on time. Let me let him know you are here." She picked up the phone, speaking in low tones before gesturing to a set of leather chairs. "He will be with you in just a moment." Karina sat, trying not to think about how out of place she felt. Her jacket was still damp, and she knew her carefully applied makeup had probably run in the rain. She pulled out her phone to check her reflection in the camera, dabbing at the mascara smudges under her eyes. "Miss Dawson." She looked up to see a man in his 30s standing before her, and her breath caught. He was tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair that was perfectly styled and sharp features that belonged on a magazine cover. His suit probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. But it was his eyes that struck her most, a startling blue-gray that seemed to see right through her. "I'm Sebastian Thompson," he said, extending his hand. "I will be conducting your interview today." Karina stood quickly, almost dropping her portfolio in the process. She shook his hand, feeling the warmth and firmness of his grip. "I thought I was meeting with Mr. Harrison. He had an emergency come up. I am filling in." His voice was deep, professional, but there was something else there, a hint of curiosity as he looked at her. "Please follow me." They walked through a maze of corridors until they reached a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a breathtaking view of the city. Rain streaked down the glass, blurring the skyline into impressionistic smears of gray and silver. Sebastian gestured to a chair across from an enormous desk. "Please sit. Can I get you anything? Coffee? Tea? Water would be great, thank you." He poured her a glass from a pitcher on a side table, then settled into his own chair. For a moment he just looked at her, his expression unreadable. Karina felt her nerves spike. She had worked so hard to get here, had practiced her answers to every possible question. She could not blow this. "I have to admit," Sebastian said, leaning back in his chair, "your resume is impressive. Top of your class at NYU, fluent in Arabic, English, and French. You have done consulting work with 3 different firms while still in school." He paused. "And you are how old?" 24. Young for such an extensive background. "I started working when I was 15, Karina said, lifting her chin slightly. "My family, it is just my grandmother and me. I have had to be self-sufficient." Something flickered in his eyes, respect maybe. "Tell me about your experience with cross-cultural negotiations." The interview lasted an hour. Sebastian asked probing questions about her understanding of Middle Eastern business culture, about how she would handle various scenarios, about her vision for the role. Karina found herself relaxing as they talked, passion replacing nervousness. She loved this work, loved being a bridge between worlds. She spoke about the importance of understanding not just language but context, about how a gesture that meant one thing in New York could mean something entirely different in Dubai. Sebastian listened intently, occasionally jotting down notes but mostly just watching her with those striking eyes. When she finished explaining a particularly complex point about negotiation tactics in traditional Arab societies, he smiled, and it transformed his entire face. "You really know your stuff," he said. "It is not just academic for me," Karina replied. "I grew up with one foot in each world. My grandmother came from Palestine decades ago, but she never fully Americanized. Our home was and is a little piece of the old country, but I was born here. I went to public school, had American friends. I learned to translate not just words but entire ways of thinking. That must have been challenging." "Sometimes," she admitted, "but mostly it was a gift. I see connections where other people see divisions." Sebastian nodded slowly, then stood. "I will be honest with you, Karina. We had over 300 applicants for this position. We have been interviewing for weeks, but I think you might be exactly what we need." He extended his hand again. "We will be in touch within a few days." Karina shook his hand, trying not to let her excitement show too much. "Thank you for this opportunity." As she rode the elevator back down, she allowed herself a small smile. It had gone well, really well. Maybe, just maybe, her luck was finally changing. 3 days later, her phone rang with a number she did not recognize. Her heart hammered as she answered. Karina Dawson speaking. "Miss Dawson, this is Sebastian Thompson. I am pleased to offer you the position of Senior Cultural Liaison at Thompson Global Trading." She actually screamed, then immediately apologized. Sebastian laughed, a warm sound that made something flutter in her chest. "I take it you accept?" "Yes, absolutely yes." "Excellent. Can you start Monday?" That had been 6 weeks ago. Now, Karina sat at her desk on the 42nd floor, reviewing contracts for a major deal with a consortium in Qatar. The job was everything she had hoped and more, challenging and rewarding in equal measure. She had already helped smooth over 2 potentially disastrous misunderstandings, earning praise from the entire executive team. But it was Sebastian who occupied far too much of her thoughts. She saw him almost daily. He would stop by her office to ask her opinion on various matters, or they would end up in the same meetings. He treated her as a valued colleague, always professional, always respectful. And yet there were moments, fleeting instances, where she caught him looking at her with something that felt like more than professional interest. Or maybe she was imagining it, projecting her own growing attraction onto him, because she was attracted. It was impossible not to be. Sebastian was brilliant, driven, and surprisingly kind. He remembered the names of everyone in the office, from the executives to the cleaning staff. He worked incredibly long hours but never asked anyone to do something he would not do himself. And when he smiled at her, which he did with increasing frequency, Karina felt like the only person in the world. It was ridiculous, of course. She was an employee. He was, well, she was not entirely sure what his role was beyond being part of the executive team, but he was clearly important. Clearly wealthy, clearly out of her league. Karina, she looked up to find Sebastian standing in her doorway, jacket slung over one shoulder, tie loosened. It was past 7 in the evening and most of the office had cleared out. "I am heading out to grab dinner. Have you eaten?" Her stomach chose that moment to growl audibly. She had been so absorbed in work that she had forgotten lunch entirely. "Not yet. Come with me. We can discuss the Qatar deal." It was not the first time they had shared a meal, but it was always in the context of work. Karina saved her document and grabbed her bag, following Sebastian to the elevator. "I was thinking we could try that new Lebanese place on 47th Street, he said as they descended. "Unless you are tired of Middle Eastern food. I know you probably get enough of that at home." "Are you kidding? My grandmother's cooking is amazing, but I never turned down the chance to try a new restaurant." The rain had finally stopped, leaving the city washed clean and glittering with reflected lights. They walked the few blocks to the restaurant, talking easily about work and then, gradually, about other things. Sebastian asked about her grandmother, and Karina found herself telling him about the fierce, loving woman who had raised her after her parents died in a car accident when she was 8. "She sounds remarkable," Sebastian said as they were seated at a corner table. "She is, stubborn as hell but remarkable. What about you? Are you close with your family?" Something shuddered in his expression. "My family is complicated. Most families are." He smiled, but it did not quite reach his eyes. "True enough. My father built Thompson Global from the ground up. He is, let us say, a formidable man, very focused on legacy, on maintaining the family name and business. And you work for him, in a manner of speaking. I am actually the CEO. My father is chairman of the board, but mostly retired." He said it casually, like it was no big deal, but Karina nearly choked on her water. "You are the CEO of the entire company. I thought you knew." "I knew there was a Thompson running things, but I assumed, I do not know, that you were a vice president or something." She sat back, processing this information. Sebastian Thompson. The Sebastian Thompson. She had read about him, about how he had taken over the company 5 years ago at the age of 26 and had doubled its revenue in that time. He was regularly featured in business magazines, usually with the descriptor Billionaire beside his name. And she had been casually having dinner with him, thinking of him as just an attractive co-worker. "Does it change things?" Sebastian asked quietly, watching her carefully. "I do not know," Karina admitted. "It is a bit overwhelming. I am still just Sebastian. Still the guy who interviewed you and got excited when you explained the importance of coffee rituals in Arab business culture." She laughed despite herself. "You did seem disproportionately interested in that." "Because it was fascinating. You are fascinating." The words hung between them, weighted with meaning. Sebastian held her gaze, his expression intense. "Karina, I need to be honest with you. These past weeks, getting to know you, working with you, it has been the best part of my days. You are brilliant and passionate and completely genuine. And I find myself thinking about you far more than is probably appropriate for a boss to think about his employee." Her heart was racing. "Sebastian, if this is unwelcome, tell me now and we will pretend this conversation never happened. Your job is secure regardless, I promise you that. But if there is any chance you feel the same way, I would very much like to take you on a proper date. Not a work dinner. A real date." Karina thought about all the reasons this was a bad idea. He was her boss. He was a billionaire. They came from completely different worlds. Her grandmother would have opinions. His father probably would too, but when she looked at him, at the hope and vulnerability in his eyes, all those reasons seemed to fade into insignificance. "I would like that," she said softly. "I would really like that." The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise. Their first official date was that Saturday. Sebastian picked her up at her apartment in Queens, driving himself in a sleek black car that probably cost more than most houses. Karina had agonized over what to wear, finally settling on a simple black dress that her grandmother had helped her pick out. Grandmother Yasmin had been both excited and worried when Karina told her about Sebastian. "He is a good man?" she had asked in Arabic, her dark eyes sharp. I think so, Teta. I really think so. And he knows where you come from, who you are. Yes, he knows. Yasmin had nodded, satisfied for the moment, but Karina knew there would be more questions to come. Sebastian took her to a small Italian restaurant in Greenwich Village, the kind of place with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. It was intimate and perfect, so different from the expensive, showy date she had half expected. I wanted to take you somewhere we could actually talk, he explained as they settled into their seats, without half of Manhattan watching. Do people usually watch you? Sometimes. The business press can be invasive, one of the downsides of the job. He reached across the table, taking her hand. But tonight, I do not want to think about work or family or any of that. I just want to get to know you better. They talked for hours. Karina told him about growing up in Queens, about learning to navigate between her Arab heritage and her American identity, about the difficulty of sometimes feeling like she fully belonged to neither world. Sebastian listened with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions. When it was his turn, he spoke about the pressure of living up to his father's expectations, about being groomed from childhood to take over the family business, about sometimes wondering what his life might have been like if he had been free to choose his own path. You regret it? Karina asked. No, I love the work. I love building things, creating connections across the globe, but sometimes I wonder who I might have been without all the expectations weighing on me. I think you would have been exactly who you are now, Karina said. Because the best parts of you, the kindness and integrity, those are not about money or business. Those are just you. Sebastian squeezed her hand. You see me in a way most people do not. The evening ended with him walking her to her apartment door. The building was old, the hallway narrow and worn, but Sebastian did not seem to notice or care. He stood close, one hand coming up to cup her cheek. I had a wonderful time tonight, he said. Me too. Can I see you again, soon? I would like that. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. She did not. His lips met hers in a kiss that was gentle and sweet and made her entire body feel like it was filled with light. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. Good night, Karina. Good night, Sebastian. She floated into the apartment to find her grandmother waiting up, pretending to watch television but obviously eager for details. Karina told her about the evening and Yasmin nodded approvingly. He treats you with respect. This is good. But Karina, my heart, be careful. Men with money, they live in different worlds. His family may not accept you. I know, Teta, but maybe it will be okay. Maybe they will see what you see in me. Yasmin pulled her close, kissing her forehead. You are treasure. Anyone who does not see that is fool. Over the next 2 months, Karina and Sebastian built something real. They were careful at work, maintaining professional boundaries, but outside the office they were inseparable. He took her to museums and concerts, to quiet dinners and long walks through the city. She introduced him to her favorite spots in Queens, the Middle Eastern markets where her grandmother shopped, the small park where she used to read as a child. Sebastian fit seamlessly into her life, charming her grandmother with his respectful manners and genuine interest in her stories. He learned basic Arabic phrases, making Yasmin laugh with his pronunciation. He ate her cooking with obvious enjoyment and helped clear the table without being asked. He is good man. Yasmin told Karina one night after Sebastian had left, but I worry still about his family. About what they will think. He says they will love me. He believes this. But wealthy families, they have expectations. They want their sons to marry women from their own world. Karina knew her grandmother was right to be concerned. Sebastian had been oddly reluctant to talk about introducing her to his family. He had met Yasmin within 2 weeks of their first date, but 3 months in, Karina had still not met his parents. She tried not to let it bother her, tried to focus on what they had rather than what they did not, but the question nagged at her. Finally, one evening as they sat in his apartment, a stunning penthouse with views of the entire city, she brought it up. "Sebastian, why have I not met your parents?" He tensed, his arm tightening around her shoulders. They were on his couch, watching the sun set over Manhattan. "It is not that I do not want you to meet them." "Then what is it?" He was quiet for a long moment. "My father has very specific ideas about who I should be with. He has been introducing me to daughters of business associates and old family friends for years. Women from the same social circle, with the same background. Women who are not Palestinian immigrants from Queens. Karina, it is not about you. It is about him, about his narrow view of what makes someone worthy. And I do not give a damn about his opinion on this. You are the woman I want to be with. You are smart and kind, and you make me happier than I have ever been. But my father, he can be difficult. I wanted to give us time to build something strong before exposing it to his judgment." She pulled away slightly, looking at him. "So you are saying your father will not approve of me?" "I am saying he might not at first, but he will come around when he sees how happy you make me." "And if he does not, then that is his loss." Sebastian took her face in his hands, his expression fierce. "Karina, I am falling in love with you. Actually, that is not accurate. I have fallen, completely. And nothing my father or anyone else says will change that." Her breath caught. "You love me. I love you. I have been trying to find the right moment to say it, but there it is. I love you." "I love you too," she whispered, and then he was kissing her, and the conversation was forgotten in favor of showing each other exactly how they felt. But the next morning, reality returned. Sebastian had to attend a family dinner that evening, something he could not get out of. Karina spent the day at home with her grandmother, trying not to think about Sebastian sitting at some elegant table with his parents, discussing business and society while she remained a secret. When he called that night, his voice was strained. "How did it go?" she asked. "I told them about you." Her heart jumped. "And?" "My father was exactly as difficult as I expected. He said I was making a mistake, that I should be focusing on someone who understands our world. My mother was quieter, but I could tell she had reservations." He sighed heavily. "Karina, I am sorry. I wish I could tell you they were thrilled and cannot wait to meet you, but I promised you honesty." "What did you say to them?" "That I am a grown man capable of making my own choices. That you are extraordinary and they would see that if they gave you a chance. That I intend to keep seeing you whether they approve or not." Despite the pain of his parents' rejection, Karina felt warmth spread through her chest. "You really said that, every word. You are not a secret I am ashamed of, Karina. You are the best thing in my life. I love you." "I love you too. And I promise they will come around. They just need time." But time did not seem to help. Over the next month, the situation became increasingly tense. Sebastian's father, Richard Thompson, began putting pressure on him at work, questioning his decisions, undermining his authority in subtle ways. It became clear that this was about more than just disapproval of Sebastian's choice in girlfriend. This was a power play, an attempt to remind Sebastian who really controlled the company and the family. Sebastian grew frustrated and exhausted, caught between the woman he loved and the family obligation he had been raised to honor. Karina saw the toll it took on him, the way he grew quieter, more withdrawn. She hated seeing him in pain, hated being the cause of this rift. One night, as they lay in bed together, she broached the subject that had been haunting her. "Maybe we should take a break." Sebastian sat up immediately. "What? No, Karina, no. Listen to me. Your family is important to you, whether you want to admit it or not, and I am causing problems between you and your father. Maybe if we stepped back, gave them some space to calm down, they might be more open later. Or maybe they would see it as confirmation that they can control my life. He took her hands, his grip almost desperate. I do not want space from you. I want the opposite. I want you in my life permanently. Sebastian, marry me. She stared at him. What? Marry me? I know this is not the most romantic proposal. I do not have a ring and we are in bed and I am probably doing everything wrong. But I love you, Karina. I want to build a life with you. I want to wake up next to you every morning and come home to you every night. I want to bring you to family dinners and business events and show everyone that you are mine and I am yours. So yes, marry me, please. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Your family will hate this. My family will adjust. Marry me. She thought about her grandmother, about the concerns she had raised. She thought about the challenges ahead, about navigating Sebastian's world while staying true to herself. But mostly she thought about how much she loved this man, how he had seen her for exactly who she was and loved her not despite her differences but because of them. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will marry you. He kissed her then, deep and passionate and full of promise. When they finally pulled apart, both were laughing and crying at once. I am buying you a ring tomorrow, Sebastian said. The biggest, most beautiful ring I can find. I do not need a big ring, I just need you. But the next evening, he showed up at her apartment with a velvet box containing a stunning diamond ring that looked like it belonged in a museum. Her grandmother's eyes widened when she saw it. This is serious, Yasmin said in Arabic, looking between them. Teta, we are engaged, Karina said, switching to her grandmother's language. Sebastian asked me to marry him and I said yes. For a moment, Yasmin just looked at her and Karina felt a flicker of fear. But then her grandmother pulled her into a tight embrace. You love him, truly, truly. And he loves you. He will honor you and cherish you. I will, Sebastian said in careful Arabic, the words clearly practiced. I will spend my life making her happy. Yasmin pulled back, wiping her eyes. Then you have my blessing, but you know his family will not make this easy. I know, Karina said, but we will face it together. She was right about the difficulty. When Sebastian informed his parents of the engagement, the reaction was explosive. Richard Thompson demanded a meeting which Sebastian refused until his father agreed to treat Karina with respect. Eventually, they reached an uneasy compromise. Karina and Sebastian would attend a family dinner at the Thompson estate in the Hamptons. No promises beyond basic civility. The drive out to the estate took 2 hours, and Karina felt her anxiety build with every mile. She had dressed carefully in a conservative navy dress, had styled her hair simply, had done everything she could to present herself as unthreatening. But she knew it probably would not matter. She was still the wrong ethnicity, the wrong class, the wrong everything. The estate was massive, a sprawling mansion overlooking the ocean. Sebastian squeezed her hand as they walked to the front door. Whatever happens, I am with you, he said. The door was opened by a butler, which seemed absurd to Karina, but she kept her expression neutral. They were led through rooms filled with antiques and artwork to a formal dining room where Sebastian's parents waited. Richard Thompson was tall like his son, but where Sebastian was warm, his father was cold. His handshake was perfunctory, his expression assessing. Sebastian's mother, Catherine, was elegant and distant, offering a polite smile that did not reach her eyes. Dinner was excruciating. The conversation was stilted, with long, uncomfortable silences. Catherine asked Karina superficial questions about her education and work, never quite looking at her directly. Richard barely acknowledged her presence, instead discussing business matters with Sebastian as if they were alone. Karina felt herself growing smaller with each passing minute, felt the urge to apologize for existing. But then she caught Sebastian's eye and saw the anger there, the way his jaw was clenched, and she realized something. She had done nothing wrong. She had been respectful and polite. She had tried. If they could not see her worth, that was their failing, not hers. So she straightened her spine and spoke up. "Mr. Thompson, I understand you have concerns about Sebastian and me. I want you to know that I love your son deeply. I do not care about his money or his name. I care about him, about the man he is when we are alone together. He makes me laugh and he challenges me and he sees me as an equal, and I see him the same way." Richard finally looked at her directly, his expression unreadable. "My son has responsibilities, a legacy to uphold. I am not convinced you understand the weight of that. You are right. I do not come from your world. I grew up in a small apartment with my immigrant grandmother. I worked multiple jobs to put myself through school. But I do understand responsibility and legacy. My grandmother carried her entire culture and history with her when she came to this country. She preserved it, honored it, while building a new life. That is legacy too. And I have learned from her that strength comes not from closing yourself off to different experiences, but from embracing them." The table was silent. Catherine was looking at her with something that might have been surprise. Richard's expression had not changed, but something flickered in his eyes. "My grandmother also taught me about family," Karina continued. "About loyalty and respect and showing up for the people you love. I know I am not who you imagined for Sebastian. But I promise you, I will stand beside him, support him, push him to be his best self. And I will do it with or without your approval, though I sincerely hope we can find a way to have it." Sebastian reached under the table and took her hand, squeezing hard. Richard set down his fork. "You have spirit. I will give you that." "She has a lot more than spirit," Sebastian said, his voice tight. "She is brilliant and compassionate and everything I could want in a partner. And I am marrying her, Dad. You can either be part of our lives or not, but that fact is not changing." Catherine spoke for the first time in a while, her voice softer than expected. "Richard, perhaps we should get to know Karina better before making judgments." It was not exactly a warm welcome, but it was something. The rest of dinner was slightly less tense, with Catherine asking more genuine questions about Karina's work and interests. Richard remained reserved but stopped ignoring her entirely. As they drove home that night, Sebastian was quiet. "Are you okay?" Karina asked. "I am proud of you. The way you stood up for yourself for us, you were incredible. I was terrified. You did not show it, and you got through to them at least a little. My mother was definitely softening by the end. My father, he is going to take more time. But I saw something in his face when you talked about legacy. I think you made him think. We have a long way to go. We do, but we will get there." Over the next few months, they did begin to make progress. Catherine started having lunch with Karina occasionally. Stiff affairs at first, but gradually becoming more relaxed. She asked about Yasmin, about Karina's culture, showing genuine curiosity. She even attended a small dinner at Karina and Yasmin's apartment, where she tried Palestinian food for the first time, and listened to Yasmin's stories about the old country. Richard remained the harder sell. He was cordial when necessary, but kept his distance. Sebastian told Karina not to take it personally, that his father had always struggled with change, with anything that disrupted his carefully constructed view of the world. But then something shifted. Thompson Global Trading was negotiating a major deal with a Saudi Arabian consortium, worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The negotiations had been dragging on for weeks, with cultural misunderstandings threatening to derail everything. Sebastian asked Karina to join the negotiating team, and she worked tirelessly to bridge the gaps, to help both sides understand each other's perspectives and priorities. When the deal finally closed, the Saudi representatives specifically praised Karina's contributions, saying she had been instrumental in making them feel respected and understood. The deal was featured in major business publications, with several articles mentioning the company's innovative approach to cross-cultural negotiations. Richard called Sebastian into his office the day after the announcement. "Your fiancée, she did exceptional work on the Saudi deal." "She did. Karina is incredibly talented." Richard was quiet for a moment, then spoke carefully. "I may have been too quick to judge her. She clearly has skills that are valuable to the company, and she handled herself with grace under pressure." "She handles everything with grace," Sebastian said. "Even your disapproval." "Sebastian, I am trying to say I was wrong. I let my assumptions and prejudices cloud my judgment. I am sorry." It was possibly the first time Sebastian had ever heard his father apologize for anything. "Does this mean you are ready to accept her, to accept us?" "I would like to get to know her better, properly this time without preconceptions. Would you both join your mother and me for dinner this weekend, just the four of us, something casual?" "I will ask Karina, but Dad, if this is some kind of test." "It is not, I promise. I saw her at the closing meeting yesterday, the way she commanded the room while still being respectful. The way the clients responded to her. She is remarkable, and I have been a fool not to see it sooner." That weekend's dinner was different. Richard was engaged and attentive, asking Karina thoughtful questions and actually listening to her answers. He asked about her grandmother, about her experiences growing up between two cultures. He even admitted that his own immigrant grandparents had faced similar struggles when they came to America from Ireland generations ago. "We all want to forget where we came from once we have made it," he said. "But maybe that is a mistake. Maybe our differences are what make us stronger." Catherine was beaming, clearly pleased to see her husband finally accepting Karina. By the end of the evening there was laughter and warmth, genuine connection being forged. As they left, Richard pulled Sebastian aside while Catherine walked Karina to the car. "You chose well," Richard said. "She challenges you, grounds you, she will make you a better man." "She already has." "Then hold on to her. Do not make my mistakes. I was so focused on business and status that I nearly missed what really matters. Family. Love. Your mother and I, we have been happy, but I wish I had prioritized her more in the early years. Learn from that." Sebastian hugged his father, something he could not remember doing in years. "Thank you, Dad, for trying, for changing your mind. Thank you for being patient with me." The wedding was planned for the following spring, a blend of both their cultures that felt perfect. They would have both a traditional church ceremony and elements from Karina's Arab heritage woven throughout. Catherine threw herself into planning with surprising enthusiasm, working closely with Yasmin to make sure every detail was right. The two grandmothers became unlikely friends, bonding over their shared love for Sebastian and Karina, and their mutual enjoyment of complaining about their respective stubborn streaks. Catherine made an effort to learn about Palestinian culture, even attempting to learn some Arabic phrases from Yasmin. Richard was slower to warm but made genuine efforts, attending cultural events with them and asking questions instead of making assumptions. 3 months before the wedding, Sebastian took Karina to the Hamptons estate again. But this time, they went alone, arriving at dusk when the ocean was painted gold and pink. "What are we doing here?" Karina asked as Sebastian led her down to the private beach. "I want to show you something." They walked along the sand until they reached a spot where someone had set up blankets and pillows with lanterns casting warm light. A picnic basket sat waiting. "When did you arrange this?" Karina asked, delighted. "Earlier today. I wanted to bring you somewhere beautiful, somewhere meaningful. This beach, I have been coming here my whole life. It is where I came when I needed to think to escape, and now I want to share it with you." They sat on the blankets, eating cheese and fruit and watching the stars emerge. Sebastian pulled her close, and she rested her head on his shoulder. "Do you remember the day we met?" he asked. "You came into that lobby soaking wet, looking terrified and determined all at once. I thought I had blown my chance before I even started. I thought you were the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. And then you started talking about cultural bridges, and suddenly I knew I was in trouble." She laughed. "Love at first sight, something like that. I just knew I wanted to keep hearing you talk, keep seeing that passion in your eyes. And every day since has just confirmed what I felt that first moment, that you are extraordinary. You make me feel extraordinary. You see parts of me I did not know existed. Because you bring them out. You make me want to be better, do better." He shifted, pulling back to look at her. "These past months, watching our families come together, it has made me think about the future, about what we are building. What are we building? A new kind of legacy. One that honors both our histories while creating something entirely our own. I want children with you someday, Karina. I want to teach them about both their heritages, raise them to be as strong and compassionate as you are. I want to build a life that is about more than money or status. I want it to be about love and family and making the world a little bit better." Tears pricked her eyes. "That is what I want too. All of it." He kissed her, slow and deep, and she felt the truth of his words in every touch. This was not just romance, not just passion. This was partnership, commitment, a decision to face everything together. The wedding day arrived with perfect spring weather. The ceremony was held at a beautiful estate with gardens in full bloom. Karina wore a white dress with delicate embroidery inspired by traditional Palestinian patterns, a fusion that felt like her entire life embodied in fabric. Yasmin cried through the entire ceremony, clutching Catherine's hand. Richard stood beside Sebastian as his best man, his expression proud. And when Sebastian and Karina exchanged vows, speaking about honoring both their cultures and building bridges with their love, there was not a dry eye in the crowd. The reception was a joyful chaos of traditional American wedding elements and Arab traditions. They did the first dance and also the dabk, with Yasmin leading a line of dancers that eventually included even Richard, who laughed as he tried to follow the steps. Arabic music and American pop played alternately. The food was a blend of cuisines that had guests going back for seconds and thirds. Late in the evening, Karina found herself standing with Sebastian on a balcony overlooking the gardens, watching their families mix and mingle below. "Look at them," she said, gesturing to where Catherine and Yasmin were talking animatedly with several of Sebastian's business partners, explaining Palestinian wedding traditions. "I never imagined this. What? That it could work, that they could actually come together like this. Your father is dancing with my cousin. Your mother and my grandmother are best friends. It is like a miracle." "It is not a miracle. It is what happens when people choose love over fear, connection over division. You taught me that. We taught each other." He pulled her close, swaying to the music drifting up from below. Ready for the next adventure, they had planned a honeymoon to Palestine and Jordan, a trip to show Sebastian the lands of Karina's heritage, followed by a tour of Ireland to see where his own ancestors came from. A journey through both their histories. "I am ready for anything as long as I am with you." 1 year later, Karina sat in the nursery of their new home, a beautiful brownstone in Brooklyn that felt like a perfect middle ground between their worlds. She rocked her infant daughter, Layla Catherine, and sang softly in Arabic. The baby had Sebastian's eyes but Karina's dark hair, a perfect blend. Sebastian appeared in the doorway, loosening his tie. He had taken over as chairman at Thompson Global Trading when Richard officially retired, with Karina serving as vice president of international relations. They made a formidable team, expanding the company's reach while maintaining the ethical standards they both valued. "How are my girls?" Sebastian asked, crossing to kiss first Karina's head and then Layla's. "Perfect. Your mother called earlier. She and Teta want to babysit this weekend," Sebastian laughed. "Those two are going to spoil her rotten, probably. Your father sent another package of books." Of course he did. Richard had become a devoted grandfather, softening in ways no one had anticipated. He and Yasmin had formed a warm friendship, united in their love for their granddaughter. Catherine visited almost daily, having relocated to the city to be closer to them. "Sebastian," Karina said as he settled into the chair beside her, "you ever think about that first interview, about how nervous I was? I think about it all the time. About how close we came to never meeting. If you had taken a different job, if I had not decided to cover for Harrison that day. Sliding doors. But we did meet, and look at what we built." He took her free hand, bringing it to his lips. "We are still building, every day. I love you. I love you too, both of you, my whole world." Through the window, the sun set over Brooklyn, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. In the distance, they could hear the call to evening prayer from a nearby mosque mixed with church bells from down the street. The sounds of their neighborhood, their community, their life together. Karina thought about the path that had brought her here, from that rainy morning rushing into a marble lobby to this moment, surrounded by family and love. She thought about the challenges they had faced, the way both their families had learned and grown. She thought about Yasmin's initial warnings and Catherine's slow acceptance, and Richard's transformation from adversary to ally. Most of all, she thought about Sebastian, about the man who had seen her not as different but as exactly right, who had chosen her over expectation, love over tradition, who had built bridges alongside her, creating a life that honored both their histories while forging something entirely new. Layla made a small sound, her tiny hand reaching up to grasp Karina's finger. Sebastian leaned over, his arm around his wife, looking down at their daughter with awe. "What do you think she will be when she grows up?" he asked. "Anything she wants. We will make sure she knows both her heritages, both her languages. We will teach her that her mixed background is not something to overcome but something to celebrate. That being different, being a bridge between worlds, is a gift, like her mother, like both her parents." They sat in comfortable silence as night fell, three people who had once been separate entities now woven together into something greater. A family built on love and respect, and the courage to choose each other despite every obstacle. In the kitchen, a photo album sat on the counter, started by Catherine and Yasmin together. It chronicled the journey of two families learning to become one, filled with pictures of dinners and holidays and quiet moments. The early photos showed stiff smiles and careful distance. The recent ones showed genuine joy, people who had become not just relatives but friends. On the first page, Yasmin had written in careful English, "Love makes family. Not blood, not tradition, not expectation, just love." And underneath, in Richard's neat script, "How right she is. How lucky we are to have learned this lesson." Sebastian's phone buzzed with a text from his mother. "Taking Yasmin to dinner. Do you need anything for Layla?" He showed it to Karina, who smiled. "Tell her we are fine. Tell her we love her." He typed the message and set down the phone. "You know what I think the best part of all this is?" "What?" "That our daughter will grow up thinking it is normal for families to blend cultures, for people from different backgrounds to love each other, for the world to be full of possibilities rather than limitations. She will not have to fight the battles we fought. We already won them for her. Not just for her, for everyone who comes after. We proved it is possible. Later, after Layla was asleep in her crib, they stood together in the nursery doorway, watching her chest rise and fall with each breath. The room was decorated with artwork from both Palestine and Ireland, books in English and Arabic, a blend that told the story of who they were and who their daughter would become. "Thank you," Sebastian whispered. "For what?" "For walking into my office that day. For saying yes when I asked you to dinner. For agreeing to marry me. For building this life with me. For teaching me what really matters. You taught me just as much. You taught me that love can overcome anything if you are brave enough to fight for it." He turned her to face him, cupping her face in his hands. "Always and forever, always and forever." They kissed in the doorway, two people from different worlds who had created their own world together. A world built on respect and understanding, on compromise and communication, on the fundamental belief that love, real love, was worth any challenge. In the years that followed, their family would grow. 2 more children would join them, each welcomed with the same joy and celebrated by grandparents who had learned that family was not about sameness, but about acceptance. Thompson Global Trading would continue to expand under their leadership, becoming known not just for its success, but for its ethical approach to international business and its commitment to cultural understanding. But more than any professional achievement, more than any measure of success, what Sebastian and Karina built together was a testament to the power of choosing love over fear, connection over division. They proved that families, even those with deep roots and strong opinions, could grow and change when faced with something worth changing for. And every year on their anniversary, they would return to that beach in the Hamptons, spreading blankets on the sand and watching the stars emerge. They would talk about the journey, about where they had been and where they were going. They would hold each other close and remember that moment when everything changed, when a young woman walked soaking wet into a marble lobby and met the man who would become her everything. Their love story was not about a billionaire and someone from a different culture. It was about 2 people who saw past surfaces to the heart beneath, who chose each other despite every obstacle, who built bridges instead of walls. It was about families learning that different did not mean wrong, that tradition could evolve, that love was always worth fighting for. And in the end, that was the greatest legacy they could leave, greater than any business or fortune. They proved that love, real and true and brave, could transform not just 2 people but everyone around them. That acceptance could be learned. That families, no matter how set in their ways, could choose to grow. Sebastian and Karina lived there happily ever after, not in a fairy tale castle, but in a Brooklyn brownstone filled with laughter and multiple languages, and the blending of cultures that made their life rich and full. They loved each other through challenges and celebrations, through the daily mundane and the extraordinary moments, through everything that life brought their way. And their children grew up knowing that love knew no boundaries, that family was what you built with open hearts and willing hands, that the world was full of possibilities if you were brave enough to embrace them all. This was their story, a love that changed everything, a love that proved families could accept, that cultures could blend, that 2 people from different worlds could create something beautiful together. Not because it was easy, but because they chose each other every single day with everything they had. And that choice, that commitment, that love made all the difference.